brief for this week is on the subject of energy. And as you've noticed, we have all the energy couples with us here this morning. I want to very quickly introduce some of them to you, and then I'll set the tone for this morning's conversation and invite the Honorable Minister to join us. The Managing Director of BOST, Mr. Edwin Provençal, is here with us. Chief Executive of Ghana Gas, Dr. Ben Asante, is here with us. Deputy Chief Executive, Technical Operations at GNPC, Opoku Ahene Dankwa, is here with us. The Managing Director of Gridco, Ebenezer Esienyi, is here with us. The Managing Director of TOR, Mr. Jerry Hinson, is here with us. Deputy Chief Executive, GNPC Finance and Admin, Benjamin Akolache, is here with us. The Chief Executive of the Bui Power Authority, and my brother-in-law, Akonta, Mr. Kofi Jamesi, is here with us. You are wondering whether it's this way or it's that way. All you need to know is that it's my brother-in-law. That's okay. Executive Secretary, Energy Commission, Mr. Oscar Amonu Neza, is here with us. ECG MD, Mr. Kwame Ajimambedu, is here with us. My brother, the Deputy Minister for Energy and MP for Karaga, the Honorable Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, is here with us. My other brother, the Deputy Minister for Energy and MP for Efija Kwabre South, the Honorable William Oreku Edu, is here with us. Also with us this morning is the Minister responsible for Energy and Member of Parliament for Menchia South, the Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. This morning's brief will focus on about 4 major issues. You would recall, and just a bit of a recap, a little over a year ago, we announced to you an elaborate series of works that were going to take place, some on the Gridco side, some on the distribution side. And I recall we even traveled with many of you, our colleagues in the media, when the works started, and you saw your brothers and my brothers hanging on high-tension pylons doing a lot of works as part of the retooling. You saw the works that were ongoing around the Pokwase and Accra West, Kaswa stations, for which purposes a lot of outages needed to be occasioned, and a program that was rolled out. I recall the conversation that almost started at the time that Dumso had started, and we had to explain over and over again that at that time. Minister, you recall, those were your words. Dumsiesi, not Dumso. There was a second part of that that was announced but was deferred, and it is time to get into a bit of that. It's part of what we'll talk about today. This morning, Minister, as I mentioned, we're speaking to 4 things. One is keeping the lights on, and marrying that with the various works that are ongoing, and therefore what you can expect during that process. Secondly, energy is a major input for economic activity. So he will be speaking about keeping the nation moving. So apart from keeping the lights on, keeping the nation moving, and our energy supply requirements to keep the nation moving. There's also a big subject of Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation in our energy sector. Honorable Minister will speak about that. And then globally, there's a big conversation about the energy transition. And the energy transition conversation is also being affected by very recent developments that are also causing some persons to even question the energy transition, whether or not indeed we need to go as green as has been advertised to us, or because of some of the considerations around the world, we still have to do a lot more work in the fossil fuel area. So that's a 4th matter that Minister will be speaking to this morning. So 4 things: keeping the lights on, keeping the nation moving, Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation in the energy sector, and the energy transition, the Ghana narrative. What does Ghana do while this energy transition conversation is ongoing in the midst of the various schools of thought and the various developments? I want to ask you to join me with a round of applause to invite up the podium the Minister responsible for Energy, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
Good morning. Thank you, Honorable Minister for Information, and my good friend. True, we spoke to Ghanaians and illustrated the fact that there's currently a lot of ongoing works amongst the transmission systems. And that may necessitate putting the lights off at particular times. Yes, ECG came out with a lot of load shedding program in the areas that will be affected. And the reason was simple. Because of the fact that we have improved the transmission system a bit, the normal curtailment that should have occurred with the transmission outages was sometimes deferred or minimized by ECG bringing lights from another distribution network. We had to pause and defer during the Christmas time because we couldn't understand why we should celebrate Christmas with parts of the country in Dumso. That work recommenced on the 9th of April, just last weekend. But before even that work commenced, the general discussion started was whether we have enough generation capacity to meet our growing economy and whether we even have enough fuel to keep the nation moving. We in the Energy Ministry know that Ghanaians will judge us and probably the government on our ability to put the lights on. And in the midst of this Russia-Ukraine war and the global supply link problems, whether we'll be able to have fuel to move our cars and move the economy. Today's presentation, we will try to explain what the ministry is up and about with all its 16 agencies. And during question time, some of the heads of the agencies may answer the questions as appropriate. Today's objective is to demonstrate how we are trying to keep the lights on, keep the nation moving, demonstrate Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation, and energy transition as we face that challenge. Our main objective as a ministry is to ensure there is stable, realistically priced, and universally accessible electricity, ensure availability and realistic pricing of petroleum products. So true, petroleum products pricing, we are all feeling it. It's going high. We hope to increase our crude oil reserve in this country to improve revenue for the economy. Ensure that Ghana's energy transition happens according to our development agenda. And ensure that with our newfound wealth of oil and in the energy sector, Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation is paramount. When we talk about keeping the lights on, what existed or what still exists, even though we have been trying to negotiate, are varying power purchase agreements that has led to excess capacity payments. Even though there are government guarantees, all these contracts are still take or pay. Whether you need the lights or not, once the generator generates it, you have to pay for it. That is not made better by the punitive tariff methodology that we have, that PURC tariffs escalate when you use more energy. You might assume that with excess energy in the market, the PURC tariff will be transparently open and such that we would encourage Ghanaians to use energy more. But that tariff is still stuck in the late 90s when it was introduced. That allows you to, forces you to conserve energy. So the more energy you use, the higher you pay. What we are doing in the policy directive, what we have said going forward, that no longer are we going to do take or pay. Every power generation that is going to come will be take and pay. So we'll pay for the power that we take. We will also ensure that we increase our generation capacity as and when necessary. Some talk about 8,000 megawatts of power PPAs that have been signed that have not reached commercial realization. And we'll also ensure that in our power mix, we increase the amount of renewable energy, or clean energy for that matter. So no longer are we going to do take or pay, we're going to stick with take and pay. Like any other business, we wouldn't sacrifice government guarantees and still do take or pays. We will decide that we are going to buy the energy at a standard price like every commodity. The tariff will be dominated in Ghana, cedis, and pesos, not in dollars, because since the year 2007, the Foreign Exchange Transaction Act under the Bank of Ghana precludes or ensures that all goods and services in Ghana should be paid in the local currency. The first table or graph that we will see demonstrated that since the year 2016, when our total generation was 3,795 megawatts, we have been incrementally adding generation to the year 2021. At no time has our peak demand exceeded our generation capacity. So when people start shouting that we don't have enough to put the lights on, I say that is not the issue. Even that was not the issue 4 years before Nana Akufo-Addo came into office. Because we have had enough generation system in the thing. It's been either financial challenges that has not allowed us to pay for the fuel or something else. So the graph shows that. I hope we can all see it. And every year since 2017, you will see that we have been incrementally adding more generation as and when it's necessary. So far, we have an installed peak of 5,288 megawatts, and our highest system peak load that we have experienced was in March 18, 2022, and it was 3,469. Obviously, there's enough room between 3,469 and 5,282. We are continuing with the upgrade system in our transmission network. The Kumasi-Kintampo section of the transmission with a line going up to Bonga, Bupe, and Burkina Faso, we've completed that transmission network. But that is not all. As we try to tackle the other bottlenecks in the transmission network, we have not been particularly happy about incidences happening around the same time in 2s and 3s. A couple of days ago, we had our Abuaze switchyard burnt. It was burned down. And it has led to a lot of intermittent power curtailments in parts of Western region, Central region, and even Accra. It has affected even parts of Accra. Because what Greenco is striving to do is to put the whole network in a circuit such that you can wheel energy wherever you are needed efficiently with automatic meters and stuff in there to ensure that even when they stay in the office, the power can be put on. But that has also meant that they're increasingly having trip-offs if the load imbalance, it's unfavorable to the system. So the system decides to shut itself down to prevent machine and equipment losses rather than put the lights on to cause those equipment too. And for some of the lines that we are changing, they are so outdated that they are congested and it's causing increasingly trips in parts of the country. So it's true that parts of the country are experiencing intermittent power charges because of a combination of factors, the work that we are doing and the power itself also giving up. So just around the time the switchyard caught fire, What keeps the voltages stable in the new Kaswa substation that we went to see is the machine called SVC that keeps the power stable. The charges on those machines, the ends started also burning. So we started dropping voltages from Kaswa to parts of Accra, and we are working hard to maintain those voltages. So even though we are happy that Kaswa system, we have also commissioned it and it is working, part of the Kaswa system are also going off because of the congestion and everything else that is happening. So yes, very soon we'll have to put the Kaswa back on and commission it formally. So as we are even progressing with the network upgrade, the transmission line strengthening, things are not also working well for us, but we have to bear both and hope that we can get on top of it. So it's true, and it is very true, but I'll bear with Ghanaians. I hope that Ghanaians bear with us so that we are not going to sleep. We are going to work around the clock to make sure that we sort it out so that we keep the lights on. As we are strengthening the transmission system, we are also putting in place loss reduction strategies. The distribution set up itself through ECG and NEDCO. We have the meter management systems that ensures that remote and early detection of faults within the transmission system also happens. We have geographic information system to ensure that location of problems and the inventory and stuff that are needed in particular areas, we can even monitor it remotely. And also improve the workings within ECG through an enterprise resource planning system, and move on to ensure that the amount of electricity we put in particular areas in Ghana, we can account for every single item. So we have realized that recently the National Revenue Protection Task Force is going out. It's going out because the amount of energy ECG is putting in the system is not getting the commensurate amount of money back to ensure that it becomes financially viable. And companies that are reliant on ECG for their finances also get enough money. So the National Revenue Protection Task Force is out in full swing. Because we complain when we don't have the energy, and we don't pay for it when we don't have the energy, when we have the energy. It can't. Something must give. So to ensure we employ all Ghanaians, that the little energy that ECG gets to you or NEDCO gets to you, pay for it. The attack on ECG staff or NEDCO staff, the butchering of NEDCO workers because they are doing their normal duty, is not going to be tolerated. So I keep showing this slide to everybody. The amount of money ECG doesn't collect from figures within ECG, their commercial losses and their collection losses. I mean, theft, those who are stealing, and the meters, those who are bypassing their meters, those whose meters are not working, and those who don't even have meters but also have electricity. It's costing ECG nearly 3.2 billion Ghana cedis. 3.2 billion Ghana. Even in current exchange terms, over 700 million or $400 million. So if ECG loses $400 million averagely, and that is even more when you look at the 2021 table, it's even more than that. If it loses that amount of money, which other company can be viable if you continue to lose the amount of money that the ECG loses? And that ECG loss is our inability to pay, or willingness to pay, or power theft. So the National Revenue Protection Task Force would not visit the Ministry of Information very soon, but will definitely visit the Ministry of Information. They have visited my ministry, Ministry of Energy. Every Ghanaian must be responsible and pay for the energy he or she consumes, or else you'll be visited by the Revenue Protection Task Force. The implementation of the cash waterfall system ensures that all these power generators are paid. Those who generate the power, those who transmit the power, and those who distribute the power are paid. So if ECG doesn't collect enough, nobody gets paid well. And there's a tendency that these companies will want an increased tariff so that they can be paid better. I can assure you that we are resisting the calls for increased tariff till we sort out our losses. The more better we sort out our losses, the more we can properly declare whether we have to, or we must increase the tariff. But first, if you are losing so much, how do you convince me that I should let you increase tariff? First, if PULC doesn't reform its tariff methodology and structure such that when you have excess capacity, you are not penalized for using energy, you are rather encouraged to use more energy. Then, after those two measures, we can see our way forward in our tariff structures. Because, again, in sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is probably the second or third country on the list with the highest electricity access rate. It means that it is costing a lot to take electricity to all the parts of Ghana we have to. And at least the distribution companies must be supported with our payment and prompt payment of our electricity bills. The current national electricity coverage is 87.03%. We hope to reach by the end of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's reign to have gone to 90% plus. That will make that Ghana has reached our SDG 7 goal of at least 90%. And I know that my agencies like WePower, VRA are working hard to improve the generation and also working hard to make sure that electricity is everywhere to ensure that we reach the national coverage. In our commitment in the power side, we want to improve grid stability. Why? Because I stood on this same podium and informed Ghanaians that transmission network between Kumasi and Accra in the north is so congested and is on old system such that Kumasi and the north, Kumasi especially, has become a bottleneck for everybody. I am not an engineer. So when the engineers tell me they don't sleep because they are finding it difficult to ensure and give us stability in the transmission network, we have to put our heads together and do what is necessary. In order to ensure that there's grid stability, because all our generation assets, or most of our generation assets, or if not 90% plus, happen to be on the seashore area from, even Akosobo is near the seashore, coming all the way to Takrady. Everything is around that part. And we have to wheel all this energy way up to Ghana, especially made worse when Bui was not functioning as 100% as it should. When we came into office, Bui was not down in the sense that Bui was not stopped, had not spoiled or damaged or anything. But there was no water. So Bui was not producing. Fortunately, about a month or two after I got into office, the dam became so full that the Minister for Chieftaincy, who had transmogrified to become the chief executive of Bui, was in my office, pleading with me that they should wheel the power because there's more water than he needs now in the system. So it shows that to stabilize the grid, you need to balance where the generation is coming from. And Kumasi has been an albatross. In fact, the people of Kumasi are suffering more than any other parts of the country in intermittent power outages and things. They think, some of them have called me to say they think that they are being sabotaged. But it is not sabotage. It is a pure engineering problem and engineering failure that we have to address. That means we have to put generation in Kumasi. Thank God, VRA itself wants to relocate their Siemens plant, 80 megawatts to Kumasi. Gridco intends to put an SVC machine so that the voltages can stabilize in Kumasi. AXA Power wants to put over a 250 megawatt plant in Kumasi. Car Power also wants to put another over 200 megawatt plant in Kumasi. At least what it will do, that it will stabilize the grid and support the Gridco operations and support loads up north. Like I said, we will continue with the rehabilitation works between Accra Central and Kasua to ensure that we complete the circuit. We still know that there's still some work to do in ECG being able to distribute the energies between their substations and the ECG substations in Kumasi to ensure that when one place gets off, we can support with electricity. We had the baptism of fire this morning here, and it's our ability to transfer load from one area to another that's going to ensure that this meeting has occurred, because there was lights out. Lights out because, yes, it has happened. It has happened. One of their substations in Achimota has lost one of their transformers, just as we proceeded to come here. We committed ourselves after Paris 2015 to employ more clean energy into our system. Two things that means we have to do. We have to employ more solar or more hydro or all these clean fuels, or more wind power, more geothermal if it's possible, more wave technology power if it's possible, and nuclear power. So in this country, we are pursuing our advantages in solar and nuclear power to ensure that at least the base load that is necessary for industrialization, which we have been reliant on hydro in Ghana for a long time, and now gas, probably because God has blessed us, we would increase our use of probably nuclear as well. On the nuclear side, we've selected a site for putting up a nuclear power plant and also selecting a country partner to assist us in that. Our effort in the nuclear power area is being done under the auspices of the IAEA, such that Ghana conforms to international best practice standards, and people don't start thinking that we want to go into nuclear because we want to produce other things that are not good for the world at large. Like we said earlier, in the solar area, Main Energy, VRA, BUI are all increasing their generation in this area. And also, for islands on the Volta Lake and the far-to-reach places, we have adopted a technology of mini-grid, self-catering mini-grids in these islands, because it's not economical, or virtually we don't have the money to put the national transmission network through the river or under the seabed, under the riverbed to send electricity there. So we have adopted these off-grid solutions. And this year, we plan to do 3 off-grid solutions in Ada area in Ghana here. We are also at the same time improving the stoves that we use to cook, called improved cook stoves. So far, we have distributed over 240,000, and we are still distributing more to ensure that those who are cooking with charcoal cook with charcoal more efficiently and also transit to gas in due time. So we want to do 38 mini-grids, or we've done 38 mini-grids. We've put 35,000 solar home systems on some schools, senior high schools and things, and we'll continue to ensure. We would also support the general populace who want to adopt solar in their houses, because you can put solar panels in your house, and at least for the 2 most expensive things, water heating and air conditions, we have air conditions now that you can connect even to solar. And there's a net metering system abroad that if you produce, storing solar is expensive, because the discharge rate is less than 50% from even the best batteries we have so far. So we want people to produce more energy, but be able to sell the excess if they don't need it. Because in Ghana, we all go to work or find some work to do during the daytime, and we rush back at home. So our peak times is in the evening. But in the afternoon, when the sun is up and we are out, if you put the solar systems in your house, you don't need to store. We would encourage you to sell it to ECG or your distribution company, and such that you sell it to ECG, not at a loss, but at a profit to ECG. So ECG is very happy. We have ongoing renewable projects like the BUI power. They've signed over 150 megawatts of solar panels. And interestingly, BUI power has studied being able to put solar panels on their river surfaces. I think if it works out well, which I believe it is working, then all our hydro surfaces can be populated with these solar panels to help us in generation. It will do 2 things for us. In this country, Where we can put a lot of the solar panels is in the north. That is precisely where we find it difficult evacuating power from, because we have to build the substations and other infrastructure to be able to wheel power from the north. But at least wherever there's a hydro dam, there's already a substation that exists in that place. And so hybridizing the solar panels and the hydro dams will be a more efficient usage, both in the conservation of water and in our ability to pump energy across the country. So we are encouraging all the hydro surfaces, even including Ghana Water, their water surfaces, there are few dams that they have. They can still put solar panels there to assist in generation of energy for use. We are experimenting with solar panels in Jubilee House to make Jubilee House even more efficient. Like we said, we'll continue distributing the cook stove and improve that one to gas with time under our LPG for National Development Program. So basically, these are some of the efforts we are trying to put in place, or we have put in place, to ensure that we continue having our lights on. The second part is keeping the nation moving. Not long ago, the galloping effect of petroleum prices was the talk of the town. Everybody was worried because, well, we don't produce, even if we produce crude in this country, we import more petroleum products to the ratio of 5:1 than the crude we produce in this country. So when you hear people saying, oh, you are making profits from your export of crude, use it to balance your import of petroleum products. It is not a one-to-one relation. We don't generate enough to meet our importation bill in that ratio. So yes, government is doing things in that side to cushion, even though we might not feel it, but to cushion the effect of a galloping petroleum product price to everybody. What is interesting is that the countries that are exporting huge, Africa #1 exporter of petroleum or crude is Nigeria. For months, they have been having shortages at their pumps, petrol stations. So how come? United States is the #1 exporter of petroleum products now in the world, but petroleum products at their pump prices has doubled. So it is not simple to say that even if you have crude, your petroleum products, because the whole global logistics supply and speculators who are involved in distributing the product, those are keeping the prices high. So what have we done? In fact, MPA, I don't see anybody from MPA here. Okay. The Ministry of Energy, together with MPA and all the bulk distributors through their chamber, Seaboard, we went to Bank of Ghana and we explained to the governor our problem. Our problem was the forward pricing of products. Because if he's going to bring products 6 weeks' time, he has to speculate on what the Ghana cedi to dollar will be in 6 weeks' time, so that when he brings products, he can sell at a price that when he takes the cedi, he can get that dollar at least and not lose at the bank. And that meant that when the cedi started depreciating rapidly, the BDCs in their forward prices through MPA were shooting up their forward pricing index. So BDs were forecasting to deliver probably in April and May around 9 cedis, 50 pesos a dollar. So we went to the governor and said, Governor, if you don't step in, we are dead. Because all the work that you are doing on your side will come to no effect, because these BDCs demand or are needing nearly $200 to $300 million a month for our crude, for our petroleum supply. They listened. And they put in place measures to stop that forward basing price. So if you have realized, the prices have stabilized and have even come down because the governor instituted a direct forex auction for the BDCs after listening to them. The second one is putting them on a credit bureau so that we will see that the BDCs don't go to many banks in chasing their dollars and then it's hidden from everybody. So a BDC may go to 3 banks for the dollar requirement, and the 3 banks might all give the money to the BDC. Or all the 3 would not give. So it was very worrying. But putting them on a platform where everything is transparent, that means you collect only the amount of dollars that you need. It has stabilized the prices a lot. And if I heard the chamber just about a couple of days, they were saying that because of what Bank of Ghana has done, their contracts are being maintained instead of being cancelled. Because some were losing their contract because the IOTs were saying that if we brought you crude, even when you took the cedis, it would not give us our equivalents in dollars. So they were running away from their contract. But thanks to Bank of Ghana, and again, I say thanks to the governance leadership, we have it. And interestingly, we have petrol. Like I said, it's better to have it and not probably be able to pay than not have it and it's even zero price. You can go and fill it for free. If petrol was free and we didn't have it, what use would that be? But if we sort out the problem of the cedi and the dollar, which the Bank of Ghana has assisted us, to bring confidence in the IOTs, in the international oil traders, to still bring products, we would be in a very comfortable position. At least going forward, there will be petrol available to keep the nation moving. The second thing we did was also to allow carefully for the next 6 months or 3 months, to allow the international oil traders not to bring their petroleum products in ships and then say, if you are ready, I'm giving you products, but to bring the products in country, into terminals, custom-bonded terminals, so that if, say, the 3 main big players here, Glencore, Trafigura, BP, if they establish base supplies using the support of BOST and TOR and themselves, putting their products in terminal in the country, we can be assured of availability of fuel products, especially for the month of May, June, and July, these are very, very tricky months. So we've worked together with MPA and all the BDCs to ensure it happens and putting a regulatory regime around it so that we can assure the BDCs that they are not going to be outstaged by the IOTs in that. But those 3 things that so far has been done would ensure that there will be availability and the nation will keep moving as far as petroleum products are concerned. The fourth thing we did was to look at the margins. Because as the Minister of Energy, I've had complaints from all the big players of petroleum products into the country, complaining that the margins are being manipulated unrealistically for a weaker petroleum price. What does that mean? 2 fuel stations next to each other. One is selling fuel a liter at 4 cedis, and one is selling a liter at 6 cedis. You begin to wonder where from that fuel that is being sold at 4 cedis. It might be good for the consumer, but we are not sure about the quality, and we are not sure about the source. So they have already written letters to us that the deregulation needs to be carefully managed, or else it will put even the bigger players out of the market. And we are in an economic area where fuel from other sources were also very rampantly available. National security has always been seizing truckloads, shiploads of adulterated fuel being offloaded onto the shores of the country. So we looked at the margins and we said, okay, we will peg a margin within a range such that the unregulated part becomes also regulated within a margin space. So that if we come and your fuel prices is way out of whack, we can trace back and find out how come you are selling it. And thankfully, the Association of Oil Marketing Companies agreed with us, and we set a margin or a range for the margin for dealers in our fuel areas. Government also decided to take a whack in some of the margins that support us. When it's become critical like now, we are all running to BOST. If there's a company that is supporting fuel availability in the system now, it's BOST. But in times of plenty, everybody turns against BOST. Why are you collecting BOST levy? Why are you collecting BOST margin? BOST is our security as a country. It needs to provide more storage such that we get 6 weeks of strategic stocks. What I mean 6 weeks of strategic stock is that government doesn't have the money to go and buy fuel and store that we would use for 6 weeks. But if BOST has depots that can put in 6 weeks of strategic stock from private people, then in times of crisis, government can have the first take on those fuel, even though we have to pay. Because you might have the money and there's no fuel. But the stock, if we can implement the BOST strategic stocks, that if we have the money, there will be available fuel. And that is exactly what the IOTs are intending to do over this crisis period. So we all have to realize that it is in our collective interest to support BOST to become efficient. I'm not saying we should support BOST to increase its efficiency. We have to support BOST to become more efficient and more profitable in managing its resources for the betterment of all of us. Also, two things. Another thing, fifth one, is to ensure that as a country, we put our refinery back to work. It's very, very interesting that in the early 2000s, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2012, BOST was working. It was making some losses, but it was working. It was refining. Once we hit commercial production of crude, BOST has no longer found this space to work. Tor. Sorry, Tor. But if Tor was in production, the pressure on the dollar from at least the petroleum side wouldn't be as acute as it has been. If BOST was refining and producing, say, 40% of our national needs from crude, because we don't always have a direct link between crude prices and petroleum product prices. It's not a straight line, because other things come in. And refined products are far more expensive than unrefined products. So and you get more out of unrefined products than refined products. So if BOST was, if Tor, why did you come and sit here with your beard? If Tor was refining, one, it will guarantee jobs for the many Ghanaians working there. Two, we'll be getting more petroleum products out of the crude that we bring to Tor, and it will be better for us. Even the last bit is that we'll be getting bitumen for our roads as well. Now you go and buy refined products, you have to import also bitumen to come and do our roads. So collectively, every effort must be made to ensure that Tor comes back to work. We are listening to the experts. Some strategic partners have already applied. A committee is being set up between Public Enterprises, SIGA, Energy Ministry, and Finance Ministry to look at these proposals to ensure that we select a partner that would invest in Tor to make it an efficient operating refinery for the betterment of us. So that work is also ongoing. The last but not the least is that we have established the petroleum hub in Western region. I hope Gridco will take lights there very soon. And that is supposed to do three things for us. Not only would it ensure a lot of people are gainfully employed, it will also ensure a security in our petroleum value chain, because we would have many refineries there. We plan about 3 refineries there. We're planning a fertilizer factory there for food security as well, because fertilizer needs a feedstock from gas. We are planning other lubricants operating in industries there. If we do, and which I know by the grace of God it will happen, we'll be very, very reliant on the values of these refined products in this country. So if Jomoro is the source of 1 million barrels of refined petroleum products and all these other things, we might not have to struggle and go and look for international oil traders around the system. So we are working very hard to ensure that our petroleum hub becomes manifestly, patently available. And we are working on that. The other way is also to increase your reserves in this crude area. So you go to your upstream and you have signed agreements and that agreement entitles Ghana to a certain amount of crude. If we want to become more self-reliant as a country, we have to try and increase our reserves on these petroleum agreements. If 15, 20 years ago we had only 5%, we should be struggling for 20, 30, and probably having blocks that we can operate on our own. The more reserves you do, the more crude you have, and the more revenue. It's a simple relation. So we are working very, very, very hard to ensure that at least, as I came to meet it, Ghana improves their take on their oil resources from our fields. We have successfully negotiated the purchase of 7% more stake in the Jubilee fields through the acquisition of shares from Anadako that had been pending for years. Successfully concluded that. It means that Exploko GMPC would have more revenue. And also, the capacity GMPC has built can be put to better use. Because the higher your stakes, the more you can get involved in the operatorship on your own or in partnership with other entities. So we have acquired more stake in the Jubilee and 10 fields. The operator working on that field has also brought about a program that a few years back, when we were contemplating even changing operatorship by selling the stakes in our Jubilee and 10 fields, now they have come back with renewed vigor. That's what a good government does. People have faith, people have confidence, and people are prepared to reinvest in even marginal or dying fields. And that is what is happening in that field. The Tallow Group wants to invest more money to extract more resources for the betterment of all of us. It's a win-win situation. And we, as a country, as a ministry, are supporting Tallow in ensuring that the value maximization plan succeeds. Not only that, there are other fields that are overlapping. They call it straddling, that the resources are shared among two contiguous fields. We are working hard such that they develop that field as one to reduce the cost in the field development and to mean that we get more revenue out of it. So instead of allowing two separate developments that will cost maybe 7 billion each, the one development, 7 billion, should cater for both fields. And it means that there will be more money available and more for the development of. Very soon, probably in the next couple of months, we've taken the position that my next topic will be energy transition. But we've taken the position, the President has taken the position that we should not let our God-given crude reserve become ghosts on the ground. We want it to become gold, not ghosts. Because the energy transition and the movement of the whole world from fossil-based fuels to clean energy might mean, and we have seen it, but for the Russia-Ukraine war, the decisions that have been taken above our heads, that there's not going to be any investment in crude. Thankfully, God is still smiling on us. Now, the West itself is realizing that, hey, maybe we should take our time in doing that, and that even gas is a better fuel than anything that we can support. So we have to take advantage of making sure that the window of opportunity that has been created, Ghana utilizes it all. So I have had word with Petroleum Commission and GMPC that very soon we would invite for direct negotiation almost all the possible blocks in Ghana. Almost all the possible blocks available in Ghana. And I want to repeat, we invite for direct negotiation almost all the possible blocks available in Ghana. So they are working on it. Some say it's 10, some say it's 15, some say the more the merrier in this case. So I've given them up to the end of April to make sure that all the blocks are available. And we transparently invite people to come and bid. At least, if we put more blocks out there, our chances of getting more and increasing our reserves gets higher. It comes to the next issue, is the energy transition. When we went to Paris, we decided to become part of the global community of nations that felt that the temperature rise in the world must not get above 1.5. So all countries were asked to make commitments. And one of our commitments we did in Paris was outside the legacy energy fuels that we had. We are going to increase our renewable mix in the energy mix, or renewables in our energy mix, to at least 10% at the year 2030. So if 2030, we have 5,000 megawatts or 6,000 megawatts, it means that we discount Akosombo and Bui because it was already there. That's how we suffer in these negotiations. We discount them and say from now, from that time, 2015, what we had, up to 2030, what we add, we have to have at least 10% of that in renewable. Like I said, renewable in Ghana means 80% probably solar, and about a few areas that we can do wind, and our efforts in nuclear. So that's what the energy transition is with. We have decided that this is a huge change, because Africa and Ghana, for that matter, contribute very, very, almost 0% to the global carbon dioxide emissions. So to be told that when you are as slim as me, and to be told to watch your diet, if you're not careful, the diet and the watch might be watchful waiting. Your relatives will be near your bed singing because you went to sleep and you woke up no more, because the balance has been taken off somewhere else. So this has decided that we in this country must sit and plan how we are going to. India came to COP 26 and said, we've heard all what you said, but we cannot join our commitments to 2070. China said, yes, we've heard you, but we'll still build our coal plants to about 2000 or 20,000. So every country's responsibility is to ensure, yes, we are heading towards thermal energy, but I thought he who has more gives more. So Africa is fighting for the position that we have not contributed much. So if you say we should cut, then give us the technology and give us the finances to ensure that we can join you. So we in the ministry have taken the bull by the horns, led by the MP for Karaga, Mohammed Amin Anta, Dr. Mohammed Amin Anta. I mean the proper doctor, Dr. Mohammed Amin Anta. I accompanied my friend to go and get a doctorate. It was in a Dubai restaurant. Dr. Benasanti would not like to sit with another doctor whose PhD was from a Dubai restaurant because he earned his. We don't want that. We don't want that. Dr. Abinata is leading the charge. They are going from every region to every region, meeting all stakeholders, soliciting their views, exchanging information with them as to how we can conduct ourselves to get to where we want to get to. I'm sure they would, and all the ministers in energy are going, some went to Dubai, some went to everywhere. Every regional capital will be visited. And after that, they will come back to Accra where they launch the program and have a series of national engagement with national bodies in Accra, like fuel tankers, operators, everybody will get involved because we have to not sleepwalk into the energy transition. We have to plan and get into where we want to get to. The transmission systems are part, the distribution systems should be made efficient, and the generation systems should be made efficient. In fact, in the year 2020, government went to Parliament to ensure that we amended our Renewable Energy Act, to ensure that all corporates, all citizens contribute their quota in this direction that we are going. We hope they will report back soon, And the results and the program of action that will come out of that transition will lead to a national transition plan that we can all adopt as a country. The fourth and the last, because of time, is the Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation. In the energy sector, we have the upstream petroleum area, we have the downstream or midstream downstream petroleum area, and then we have the power area, power and petroleum. We've already passed local content laws and legislation in the area of the upstream. We have even gone forward and said that if you come and get a petroleum block, a Ghanaian entity or indigenous Ghanaian company should have 5% of that stake. All the companies or the contracts that are coming under Ghanaian participation should be paramount. We've ensured it's left with our policemen, GMPC and PC, to ensure that in that area of local content and Ghanaian participation, it's not a few Ghanaians who have formed thousands of companies benefiting alone. That was not the intention. And it is the responsibility of GMPC as management members of these petroleum agreements and PC as the regulator to ensure that it's not Matthew Opoku Prempeh who has formed company A to Z, getting contracts A, B, C, D. No. The wealth is for all Ghanaians. And the intention of the Ghanaian content is to ensure that many Ghanaians participate. So I thank Petroleum Commission for embarking on capacity building and training in all the various areas that happen under the upstream. Because if you don't have a Ghanaian as an undersea welder or underwater welder, separately, if there are thousands of jobs there, you don't qualify. So to be able to claim Ghanaian content, you have to train Ghanaians to be able to do that. And I hope that PC continues to work that. Also, in the power side, the Energy Commission has worked hard and is still working very hard in its labeling and standards to pass the LI on local content and local participation, LI 2354. It's been passed, yes. So thank you. So that work that goes on, somebody looks out for Ghanaian interest and Ghanaian participation. I do know that work has gone far advanced in the low downstream sector as well. And we will get the amendments passed to ensure that legally local content or Ghanaian content and Ghanaian participation in the midstream, lower stream also comes to fruition. In fact, together working with PC, we went to Parliament to amend LI 2204 to ensure that only joint ventureship, which before that was what we meant by Ghanaian content, we include strategic partnership and channeling in the various forms of partnerships to encourage more Ghanaians to be able to get in the industry. I would like to conclude by saying that we in the ministry will work hard in adding generation when necessary. The era where we added so much generation that is costing us excess capacity charges should happen no more to us. We should bring them on at the right time and at the right price for Ghanaians to continue to enjoy power. We will locate power generation in areas of the country such that great instability becomes a thing of the past. And I believe we have put in place measures to ensure availability of petroleum products through this crisis time. Thank you.
Let's do it one more time for the Honorable Matthew Opoku Prempeh. You know, he's been managing his right foot, so I was a bit worried about the length of time he was up here. Minister, I think it's a good time to take questions for you. It's a very elaborate presentation you've done that's dealt with about 4 major matters. And it's a good time to take questions from my colleagues who are here. So we have some usual suspects. For them, from archaeology to zoology, they have questions ready. And then we have some occasional foreign players who join us when the World Cup is in season. So, David, are you ready? Yes, we'll start from, let's start from the usual suspects from this side. Introduce yourself and please, let's hear your question.
Thank you. Arthur Mensah from Ghana News Agency. I have about 3 questions, so bear with me. My first question is, as the minister rightly said, there was a National Energy Revenue Task Force that has been going around to check this power theft. I want to find out how much has it collected so far. Then I want to find out, in terms of those who have been arrested for power theft, have there been any persecution? Have they been prosecuted? And how much has come out of that prosecution? Then there was also a perception out there. There was a cartel at the UCG that helped people to steal power because they also have their cut. And so I want to find out whether you are aware of any cartel that is operating in the energy sector, particularly UCG, helping people to engage in energy theft. Then I want to find out this second phase of strengthening the transmission system.
This is now your 4th question.
Okay. I want to find out because there has been intermittent power outages. I want to find whether there was any planned load shedding. Because where I stay, every evening, 8 o'clock to 12 a.m., there was power outage for almost 2 weeks. And so if there was this ongoing work, is there any plan to come out with the load shedding so that we can plan our lives very well? Then possibly my last question.
That's question number 5.
Then how much investment has government made since 2017 in power supply infrastructure so that it can meet the demand capacity of the nation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. You said I told you. So that's Arthur Mensah. 5 questions, though he advertised 3.
Yeah, I'll ask just one question.
That will make it 6.
My name is John Awuni Kesben. Not long ago, after the Honorable Minister took over the realms of Ministry of Energy, anytime it rained and the whole place got flooded, the light still stayed on. But in recent times, anytime it rains, you see power outages here and there. So what must have accounted for that? That when he took over, things were going well, Ghanaians were praising him as the messiah of the energy ministry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a hand at the back here. Was that you? So I'll start with you and then I'll take the other 2 gentlemen.
Thank you. I also work with Ghana News Agency.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Albert Opoku.
Say again?
Albert Opoku.
Albert. Yes. Albert, go ahead.
2 weeks ago, there was a report that was launched about climate risk of Ghana. It mentioned...
the report was...
So that the title of the report is Ghana's Resilient Infrastructure Roadmap. And the Deputy Minister of Energy was there.
And the report was launched by, which organization? It's from which organization?
It's a cross-sectional report that was developed in Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Environment, Roads Ministry, Water and Sanitation. They were all part of it, of the report.
So the report was launched by government?
Yes, in conjunction with Climate Coalition Adaptation.
Okay, go ahead with your question.
So it mentioned that infrastructure like the Bui Dam, Akosombo Power, they are all under threat in terms of drought and flooding. It also identified that we don't have a policy that says that if you are undertaking such a project, you should consider climate risk. I want to ask the minister, what are we doing about it? Since these infrastructures are under threat. My second question, okay, I'll come back. Thank you.
You can ask a second, we don't mind. Do you have a second? Yeah, shoot, don't worry.
Okay. Okay, so
And then I'll take the last two and go to Minister.
The minister mentioned the nuclear power plant. I want to find out when the vendor selection is going to end and then what's next. Because I heard the vendor selection issue, I think, early this year. So I want to find out when it's going to end and what's going to be the next. Okay. And also the e-mobility policy. Since we are talking about energy transition, what are we doing with the e-mobility policy? Because I know Energy Commission has started doing.
When you say e-mobility, you mean electronic mobility or energy mobility?
Electronic mobility, correct.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah. I don't know whether it's a subset of e-levy or something. That's what I'm asking. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Fred, CTFM CCTV.
So I'll take you as a last, then I'll take responses, and then we'll come for some more.
That is fine. I want to find out from the minister, what is the state institutions, specifically the Ministry of Energy, Communication, and the likes, that owe the ECG. How are they hoping to redeem this indebtedness in the coming days for them to get their money to stay afloat? Because I know about 20 of these institutions owe to the tune of 120 million Ghana cedis. The state institutions, how are they going to? Then the second one, quite recently, the workers of the Electricity Company of Ghana, they demonstrated asking that the CEO of ECG, Mr. Budu, his time is up for retirement, and they've been asking him to exit office. Whether that has come to his attention, and what are they doing? Thank you.
Thank you. So, Minister, I'm going to take responses to this first set of questions, and then I will come back for a second. Just to recap, National Energy Revenue Task Force. Can we have some silence, please? National Energy Revenue Task Force. How much so far, or what has been the impact? Minister, we may tie that in with the last question from Citi. How are they hoping to be successful in mobilizing? Prosecutions for power theft, perception of inner dealings or a cartel at ECG. Is there therefore a plan for load shedding as some of these works continue? How much have we invested since 2017 in energy infrastructure? But that's a huge one because that's from production all the way to distribution. So, Minister, then there's a question about power trips during rainfalls now. Has something changed? Climate resilience threat. Do we have any responses to the suggestions that some of our energy infrastructure are threatened because they are not climate resistant? Nuclear vendor selection, what's the status? Electronic mobility, I confess I do not understand that one. I leave it to you. And then the last one is ECG staff agitations. Is there any response to that?
Thank you. In 2015, in the year of our Lord, 2015, government policy became all MDAs should put meters or prepayment meters in their agencies, budget for the utility, and pay for the utility. That policy has not been changed. That policy exists. That policy has not been wholly successful because government or ECG have not found the wherewithal to put prepayment meters everywhere. But I do know that there has been a continued improvement in metering all these government agencies and ensuring that they pay their bills. One of my charges to ECG on that has been, for those who chronically don't pay their bills, if you are going to cut them, don't. Put the prepayment meter there, give them the light, and let them pay. Because for some, it's just that they don't want to pay. For others, they have serious challenges with funds to pay. But the whole purpose of that is also to demonstrate to Ghanaians that you can't have electricity for free. Now, if we've listened to all the complaints, we don't want to do so. We don't want Prempeh And we want our lights to be on. So it's our collective responsibility to pay for what you consume. I'm sure if petroleum products were sold just as we sell electricity, there will be as much debt as there are in there. But we don't, and so there's less. So I'll start. I think so far the Revenue Task Force has collected slightly more than 30 million Ghana cedis. The loss is what we use to prosecute. And I ask myself, what is ECG interested in? ECG is interested in this money. So if they come and cut you and you come and make an arrangement and they receive their money or they're going to receive their money, what is the point of going to court? Court is the last resort. Courts are the last resort. But I can assure you the judiciary system has already put in place special courts for electricity offenders, where judges have been appointed, where when you go, some of these recalcitrant institutions will find out that the power will be given to ECG to garnish your account. So you can say you won't pay, but when they take the money directly, I'm not sure you can say you won't pay. ECG itself, when it fails to pay another government institution called GRA of the necessary pensions, whatever, taxes, GRA takes the position of going to garnish ECG account. Because the GRA cannot go and do doomsaw in ECG, or cannot go and pull the meter. So they have taken the position that every week, if you don't pay me a certain amount of money out of your debt that you owe me as GRA, they are all guided institutions. That's why I'm using that example, so that nobody says I've picked on somebody. They garnish ECG accounts. And as a minister, I support the garnishi. So I've asked ECG, for those who are saying, won't pay, you go to court, you get the power to garnishi, and you send the garnishi. When I was the Minister of Education, somebody sent garnishi from WA to come and take 10 million from Ghana Education Service for land that was bought in the 50s. It's an easier way. So we are going to employ everything available. But my first option is not court. My first option is not prosecution. My first option is to deny you the service of electricity so that you come and sit down and arrange payment. ECG is not saying that pay 100% today. Be responsible that you don't continue to accumulate. So the first thing is that you have to demonstrate to them that from now going, I'll pay on time. For the debt, I can pay this amount now. And for the rest, please spread it out for me. We have to be responsible Ghanaians. That is all it is saying. As to ECG cartel, we all believe that there's a perception that electricity is a difficult one. So only the knowledgeable people can go and tweak. Me, I can't. But those who can are only not working in ECG. All the energy institutions, some people can do it. So I'm not really bothered about who is what where. I'm bothered about what I bill you, I must take. If I come and I catch you that you have put underground and you pay double, or you pay for how I collect. So they have the tools to check if you bypass even for 2 years, how much you owe them, and you pay for it. Electricity is not for free. We have to pay Ghana Gas, the gas they supply. We have to pay the IPPs, the power they generate. We have to pay Gridco. We are all complaining. We saw it. Abuazi switchyard, it's gone. We have to find the money to put it back. Who should money do we take to go and put it back for who should get the electricity for free? So we all have to pay. As simple as that. So I'm not sure of the cartel and the effects. The Revenue Protection Task Force is a National Revenue Protection Task Force. And this work will continue till we collect as much as we can collect. When you make the effort, we can arrange for the payment to be settled in terms that is comfortable with ECG. So if you are a cartel member, you'll be dealt with by law. You said intermittent power. Yes, it's true. It is also true because we're coming from a particularly difficult period. So when the power stayed, when rain fell in your areas or in our areas, people hailed the minister. So when power doesn't come, people will blast the minister. I'm prepared for both, but we all have to live with the reality. Insofar as we haven't completed the work schedule, if so far as occurrences would happen, I don't want to believe that these are orchestrated or people are behind what is happening. But if you have one of your switch yards going off, if you have what you have put in place that you don't want your voltages to collapse, burning or overcharging, if your lines tripping, if even this morning whilst we were here, the only transformer that was going to bring power to this side collapses, there's not much you can do. But if the gridco is solvent, it means financially viable, then it can quickly replace that transformer. But if a transformer gets burned and it's a machine, it can get burned, and it's going to take them 2 years. We are going to feel the effect. But if we don't pay for what we consume, we cannot also begin to maintain as we have to maintain. So I hope that, like my charge is saying, still keeping the lights on happens. But I know that in the last few weeks, some areas in this country have been having increasing intermittent power cuts, and the responsibility has been placed on GRIDCO and ECG to identify those faults and let us all together work of correcting it as quickly as possible. Somebody said, investment in the power infrastructure. I cannot give the answer now, but I'm sure if the person gets there, because like the Minister of Information said, it will range from generation coming out to distribution. And a lot of work is going on, either through internally generated funds or loans the government will contract on behalf of all these agencies, loans and things. So much is going on that I cannot be here and give you a particular figure, but we can work it out and let you see how much government is investing in it. This climate resilient issue that you raised, I wanted to know whether your question is, we don't have a climate policy now, because Kosovo was built in 1966. It was commissioned in 1964, right? 60, the late 64, yes. And Bui was commissioned in 2013. Is that the time that we didn't have a resilient plan? But even on this podium, I talked about hybridization of our hydro plants. That in itself is to protect against the climate. One of the many solutions. In fact, rehabilitating the turbines is also another one to make it even more efficient. That has been ongoing. So I haven't read the report, and I don't know which direction they are coming from. But I'm not sure our sector managers have been negligent at all. If you want to throw more like the next round of questions, then you throw. Nuclear power Ghana, this is where we are. Yes, we have 4 sites. They are doing their collection of their data and the info to decide on which best site we have. But that site is also dependent upon the technology that, as a country, we choose to deploy. And those 2 things in tandem are going on. So very soon, when they are ready, they'll make available options for cabinet to decide on where the site should be and which technology that should accompany. But once we get on, we should be informed. A lot of countries have also, when they send the request for proposals out, a lot of countries have responded, and it's all being studied. It's not a simple journey that we are going to undertake. It's a huge, and that journey is also being affected by international power politics. So we have to carefully tread so that we come out successfully. The e-mobility policy, as is being advanced and worked on by Energy Commission. Today is Wednesday. On Monday, I received a letter from the Ministry of Finance asking for a committee to be set up between Energy Commission, Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Transport, and a host of other ministries that are involved to ensure, because the Ministry of Energy was requesting for a curtailment in duties and tariffs when you are bringing e-mobility cars. E-mobility means electric vehicles, virtually. In this country, that is what we mean. In other areas, there are hybridized fuel cars and things that can be put in the system as well. But that work is continuing. If somebody is going to bring a car in that is electric, that is going to cost more in duties than bringing the other cars with normal fuel, then it's a disincentive. So in most countries, when the country starts going e-mobility or implementing those policies, they, for a time, waive duties and things on those products so that they become competitive for the people to bring. When I interacted at the policy launch of e-mobility with one of the fleet vehicle owners servicing some companies in Tama, I was astonished that the company had decided on, based upon economics. He said, I operate Nissan vehicles, Nissan Evan buses. And I realized that it cost me nearly 5,400 Ghana cedis on fuel in a month. When I bought my first e-vehicle, the same Nissan, but this time electronic, it cost me less than 700 cedis a month. So because of that, he has ordered 80, not because of our climate resilient plans, not because of our energy transition, not because of anything. But if he is going to pay only 700 cedis for fuel for the same car a month, he has done the economics. But the company was not going to get the rebate. All was coming to the owner.
I'm going to take a second batch of questions. A second batch. And then we'll wrap up after the second batch. It's been a long morning already. Is there a second batch of questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Michael Craig Afo, editor for EnergyNewsAfrica.com.
Michael, please speak up. Energy News.
Energy News, yes. Minister, not long ago in 2021, Ghana National Petroleum Corporation made an announcement or issued a statement indicating that they are going to acquire stakes in Aker Energy and AGM Petroleum. And there were a whole lot of controversies surrounding that deal. I want to find out from the Honorable Minister what is the current state of that agreement or that deal. Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you for the opportunity. Please, I would want to read the portion that I'm referring to so that the minister will know what I'm talking about.
Do you have a copy of the report?
Correct, it's online.
Yeah, so I think maybe what we should do is, let's get a copy, let's furnish the minister with a copy. He can study it and then he can give you responses to follow-up questions that you may have on it.
Right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So say again? Yeah, so you can ask the Secretariat to maybe even print a copy, then later minister can look at it, then we can schedule for you to get some follow-up responses. As he mentioned, he hasn't seen it. I haven't even cited this report. So it's good that we all see it and that we can respond. Are there any other questions? Minister, that will be the last question. Is there any update on the GNPC ACA matter? And then we'll wrap up.
Thank you. Government went to Parliament to seek policy approval on acquisition of more shares in ACA AGM. And we did request for two things, that we should be given the mandate to go into the negotiation to acquire up to a certain percentage. Subsequently, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Energy were charged with the responsibility of coming back to Parliament to tell Parliament how much they were going to acquire in the stakes and how much that was going to cost, based upon certain preliminary works that had been done by ACA itself, that is the operator it was selling, and GMPC, that is also a partner in the field and was willing to buy. So it's a willing seller, willing buyer activity that has to go through a very, very transparent system to ensure that the seller doesn't overcharge, the buyer doesn't overpay. That has meant that a lot of entities, consultancies in the natural resource area are all employed to give them a view of that, including banks and investment banks that are into that area. So I know of Bank of America, ERC, all working on it. But what I can assure you is that their last meeting, they promised that all the reports will be available by the end of the month. And that scrutiny will be done by GMPC, so we can decide finally what stakes we want to acquire, both in the ACA field and in the AGM field. And I'm sure Ghanaians, Parliament will be fully appraised of what we are doing, and for that matter, Ghanaians would know. But it is in the light of improving our reserves so that the country gets more revenue. That is the underlying factor why we are buying more. Thank you.
So, colleagues, this is where we'll draw down the curtain on this morning's brief, which is the second brief for this week. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you that you joined us this morning with a very high-powered delegation from your sector to provide a very detailed update on what's going on and to respond to questions. A couple of things we'll do. One, the presentation is available, so the team will make it available on the press pool platform. So we get the data and the numbers and the figures right. Accuracy is very, very important. Two, the communications team of the Energy Ministry is here with us. They will stay with us briefly when we are done. So if you have any clarification that you require, it's better to just reach out to them and clarify rather than then we report something and then there needs to be a rejoinder, etc., etc. They're available. So if we have any issues, let's just ask them, can we get a clarification on this? Can we get the data on this? Can we get that on that? We'll be happy to do that for us. I want to wrap up by acknowledging the Chief Executive of the Volta River Authority, Emmanuel Inchidakwa, who is here with us, and the Executive Director, Nuclear Power Ghana, Dr. Stephen Yamwa, who is also here with us. I want to make special mention, very special mention, I have to take off my hat, to Ambassador Cabral Blair Mihe. No, I have to take off my hat. For those of you who know about journalism, they are the big shots. They are the pioneers. And today is board chairman of Gridco. Ambassador, you see I took off my hat for you. Thank you very much. So, colleagues, I am very grateful to all of you. Minister, we're very grateful to you. Wish you all the best. Thank you.